Hello, welcome to the Grow Your Wealthy Mindset podcast, where it is all about helping amazing physicians just like you create a wealthy life free from burnout and with the financial security to practice medicine on your own terms. I'm your host, Dr. Elisa Chiang. Good morning, or afternoon, or evening, depending on when you're listening to this podcast episode. Welcome back to the Grow Your Wealthy Mindset podcast. I'm recording on a beautiful autumn day. It's unseasonably warm. The sky is bright blue, and I just feel great when the weather is great. If you're listening to this podcast on the day it's released or soon after, then let me wish you a happy Thanksgiving. And in a somewhat Thanksgiving theme, we're going to talk about hedonic adaptation. Hedonic adaptation is a tendency to return to a relatively stable level of happiness. Basically, we get used to our current situation, and then we desire more to think that we'll be happier when we have more. Habituation is related, but it's not the same. Habituation just means we react to a stimulus around us. It could be a sound, a taste, or a smell. Imagine going to a room full of roses. When you walk in, you smell the roses, and it may even be a very strong smell, an overpowering smell. If you stay in that room, then with time, maybe after 20 or 30 minutes, you'll probably not even notice the smell of roses anymore. Your olfactory neurons have adapted to the smell. You have habituated to the smell of roses from being ever present. This is an example of perceptual habituation, and there are evolutionary advantages to this. By habituating to stimuli that are benign over time, it leaves us with the ability to detect stimuli that may be a warning of danger. To continue with the example of smell, by habituating to the smell of roses, we can now smell the smoke that may be coming from the stove where food is burning. This alerts us of a possible fire, which can be dangerous. Remember, one of the primary functions of our brain is to enhance survival and to protect ourselves from danger. Let's go through another example of habituation. Let's say you buy your dream car. It's a luxury car with all the extra bells and whistles that make your long commute much more enjoyable. When you first start driving it, you're overwhelmed with joy and satisfaction. All the luxurious features really bring you a lot of pleasure, and you have a surge of happiness every time you get behind the wheel. Over time, you habituate to driving that car. You're driving it every day. It becomes your daily norm. There's not that same sense of joy that comes with driving the car over time. You get used to it. You may ride in your friend's car and see a feature they have that looks amazing, and you may start thinking that you want a new car with that new feature. Habituation happens when something is constantly there. Going away and coming back can return some of that sparkle. Perhaps you go for an extended trip where you're driving a rental car that's not as nice as your car. When you come back to your car, you may appreciate that seat warmer and remote startup much more than you did when you left for your trip. With this second example of a car, you can see habituation relates to hedonic adaptation. With hedonic adaptation, which is also referred to as the hedonic treadmill, people revert to their set point of happiness or unhappiness. One could say that you habituate to all your current life circumstances, and you revert to your baseline happiness level. People often think that if they had more money or made more money, then they could buy more things or more experiences, and that will cause them to be happier. As a person makes more money, expectations and desires also tend to arise, which results in no permanent gain in happiness. The hedonic treadmill viewpoint suggests that wealth does not increase level of happiness. The process of hedonic adaptation is often conceptualized as a treadmill, since no matter how hard one tries to gain an increase in happiness, one will remain in the same place. I think a part of us all knows or realizes that money can't buy happiness. After all, there are plenty of extremely wealthy people who are unhappy. The lack of money can contribute to unhappiness, and money can certainly solve a lot of problems, but money only solves the problems that money can solve. And money can't solve all problems. If wealth doesn't increase happiness, why work to increase our wealth? I consider wealth as the tools to create the life you want to live. Money contributes to wealth, but so do relationships, connections, and other intangible things. If we want the wealth to live the life that we want, what does that mean for our happiness if our individual happiness level is fixed at a certain set point? What can we actually do to change our level of happiness and get off this hedonic treadmill? And this is why this podcast is called the Grow Your Wealthy Mindset Podcast. But first, let's talk more about hedonic treadmill theory. According to hedonic treadmill theory, we adapt to both positive or negative life events, and our happiness levels eventually return to our initial baseline or set point. Brickman and Campbell introduced the hedonic treadmill in their 1971 paper, Hedonic Relativism and Planning the Good Society. In the paper, Brickman and Campbell studied a group of lottery winners and a group of people who experienced terrible accidents with life-changing events. They found that lottery winners and accident victims both returned to their pre-event happiness within a few months or years. And in fact, often the accident victims were actually happier compared to those lottery winners. When good things happen to us, we feel happy, but eventually we go back to our baseline. Bad things also happen. Our car may break down when it's raining, and that causes us to feel frustrated or angry or upset. We may lose a loved one and feel grief and sadness. Eventually, however slowly, we go back to our baseline. Hedonic adaptation involves the restoration of baseline levels of happiness following positive or negative life events. As we achieve more or earn more, we adjust our expectations to align with our current circumstances. We tend to compare our situation with others as well. And we tend to compare ourselves more often to people who appear to having more than us rather than people who have less than us. It's the whole keeping up with the Joneses. What contributes to setting our baseline level of happiness, and how can we change that baseline? There are studies that suggest genetic predispositions, as well as environmental factors that shape hedonic adaptation. There isn't much that we can do for the genetics portion, so let's talk about factors we can control to try to adjust our happiness set point. In line with Thanksgiving, there's a lot of research to support practicing gratitude and that expressing gratitude increases well-being. I did a whole episode on the practice of gratitude. You'll want to check out episode 26, The Practice of Gratitude, which was released on November 23rd, 2022, as another Thanksgiving episode. The Huberman Lab podcast episode 47, The Science of Gratitude and How to Build a Gratitude Practice, is also a great episode that really dives into the research on the practice of gratitude. If we look at the word hedonic, it actually means pleasure. And hedonism tends to focus inward on ourselves for fulfillment. Pursuing hedonic rewards by pursuing and achieving material possessions, experiences, and accolades is not a bad thing, but it does cause us to keep reaching for more. And there's nothing wrong with wanting more. Personal growth does give purpose and fulfillment to oneself. But if we keep reaching more without appreciating our current state, that can be part of not feeling so happy where we are. So we want to balance that. Eudaimonic activities are outwardly focused and include those in which we give of ourselves to others. The term comes from what Aristotle describes as the pursuit of virtue, excellence, and the best within us. Giving to others is another way to shift towards more well-being. There's emerging neuroscience data to support giving with a decline in depressive symptoms. In one study, functional MRI scans were used to observe neurological activity in the reward center of the brain, the ventral striatum, when exposed to thoughts about either giving or receiving money. The participants were asked questions about giving money. For example, if you were giving money, who would you give it to and why? They were also asked questions about receiving money, like, if you were to get money, what would you spend it on and why? These participants had their brains scanned while they were being asked these questions. Some participants had high activity in their ventral striatum when they were asked to think about giving, while others had high activity when they were asked to think about receiving money. Some participants had high activity in their ventral striatum when they were asked to think about giving money, while others had high activity when they were asked to think about receiving money. When researchers measured depressive symptoms in each group 1 year later, they found that participants who had brains lit up from giving money experienced a decline in depressive symptoms, while the people whose brains rewarded them for receiving money showed an increase in depressive symptoms. This really suggests the more we think about giving, and if we can get that feeling of giving to light up a reward center, that can decrease depressive symptoms. But when we really focus on spending and the reward of spending and obtaining something from spending, that might increase depressive symptoms. Consider how you may give a little more, and it doesn't have to be money that you give. It can be attention, it could be time, it could be helping somebody out. I think as physicians, we tend to be very giving people. We give a lot to our patients. Notice when you are giving of yourself and think about how that impacts other people for the better. Fostering meaningful relationships with family or friends is also linked to improved well-being. We humans are social creatures. There was a time that we really needed to belong to a tribe, a community, to survive, to help protect us. And even now, there's still some truth to that. We want to find our tribe that's going to support us when we need support. There's still a part of us that fears being ostracized or rejected from a group of people or society as a whole. This is why peer pressure works so well, and probably also why we compare ourselves to others so frequently. Investing time and effort to develop deep connections with others can really also help us develop a sense of belonging. One landmark study published in Science showed that lack of social connection is a greater detriment to health than obesity, smoking, and high blood pressure. Strong social connection is associated with increased longevity and may even strengthen our immune systems. People who feel more connected with others also have lower levels of anxiety and depression. If you're looking to have more happiness and well-being in your life, if you're looking to increase that set point, try to see how you can focus a little bit more on developing deep connections and relationships with other people. When's the last time you talked to your mother or a sibling or a friend? When's the last time you made a new friend? When's the last time you went out on a date night with your spouse if you have one? Scheduling time to be with other people to deepen social connections really could potentially help you raise the happiness level in your life. The last suggestion I have for you is exercise and moving your body more. There's a lot of research that suggests that exercise helps improve mood. Exercise increases the production of endorphins, which are brain chemicals that can actually directly improve your mood. Exercise can also help people manage stress and can reduce skeletal muscle tension, which also helps you feel more relaxed. Exercise improves sleep and increases energy levels. On the opposite end, there is research linking sedentary behavior with depression. Our post-industrial world has many of us moving a lot less than what our bodies were built for. It's funny. In clinic, I'm always walking quickly between rooms, and patients will even remark, "Oh, you must get a lot of steps a day." But the rooms are so close together that I rarely get more than 3,000 steps on a full clinic day. The suggestion of 10,000 steps a day takes a concerted effort. You actually have to spend time thinking about how you're going to get more walking into your day. If you were to do 10,000 steps at once, that actually can take an hour or more depending on your pace. Remember, it can be enough to get your body moving. If you can get rigorous exercise in, all the better. Exercise just provides so many advantages. Think about how you can schedule doing some exercise or adding in more physical activity to your day. The mind and the body are connected, and working our bodies really can affect and improve our mind and our mindset. I hope this episode motivates you to not only practice gratitude, a traditional activity over Thanksgiving, but also consider how you can give, connect with people, and fit in some physical activity between consuming holiday sweets. I hope you have a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday, and no matter what time of year it is, embrace the Thanksgiving spirit to bring a little bit more happiness to your life. Thank you so much for being a listener of the Grow Your Wealthy Mindset podcast, and I'll be back next week with another episode. If you enjoyed this episode, I would love it if you could share it with your friends and colleagues. And now for the disclaimer. I am not a certified financial planner, accountant, or attorney, and nothing I say should be construed as professional investment, tax, or legal advice. This show is primarily for your education and entertainment. I am a physician, but I'm probably not your physician. So if you need any medical advice, please contact your own physician. Thank you.